In this video, I want to start talking to you guys about some conditional formatting. So conditional means if then formatting. So if something happens, then do this, right? So we're going to talk about that here in this video, or start talking about it here in this video. So we're going to go back into our worksheet. And again, at this point, yours may be more filled in. I did skip some of these, parts in the text, so you can go back and do that stuff yourself. But let's say we're looking at this and we would like to have a goal. So we would like to have a whole time goal that someone is not waiting longer, we'll say, than 15 seconds. So maybe that's our goal here is 15 seconds. That's it. We don't want people waiting longer than that time. And let's do some analysis with this. So what you'll see here first is I do have a column already set up that says seconds over whole time goal. So basically we're kind of saying, okay, the first 15 seconds don't start, but if your wait time was 20 seconds, then I want to have this noted here that we were 5 seconds over the whole time goal, right? So we were waiting too long there. So I am going to set up a formula here. I'm going to use a subtraction formula, and I'm going to click my cell, and I want to subtract what my whole time was with that 15 seconds. Now, I'm not going to use the number 15 here. I'm going to use my cell reference because, again, this could change later on, and then my work is all done. Let's see if I can fix that for a second. That should be B28. I'm going to just type that in there, be a little bit easier, I think, for me to click. All right, good. And I have the right cell highlighted this time. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter there. And notice I do get a -10 in this first case because my whole time was only 5 seconds. So it was not over the whole time goal, it was under. So that's why you have the negative, because we were 10 seconds less than the goal, which is a good thing. If it was positive, that means that it's over the goal. Now, again, I would like to copy this formula down. But when I start copying, again, I always encourage you to check your information. Look what happens. I get H6, which is what I want, but then I'm subtracting with B29. B29 is not where my information is. My information is in B28. So this is a great opportunity to use an absolute cell reference. So I'm going to go back up to my original formula, and I'm going to put those dollar signs in, so that I fix the cell B28 where the 15 is. And now I'm going to go ahead and copy that down. And again, check. I'm going to keep copying it, but just check, right? Does it make sense? So here I have H6 minus the same B28, H7 minus B28, etc. And this looks good. Check your numbers, right? The whole time here is 10, 8, 4. These are all less than 15 seconds and makes sense that they're negative. So again, you really want to get used to checking your work and making sure that you're copying formulas or auto-filling formulas correctly here. I need to fix my formatting. We do not want to change the fill background. I think I lost my opportunity. So let me go back here for a second. There we go. I'm going to add my dollar signs in, and I'm going to make sure I actually copy this correctly. So when I did that, I'm just hitting the back key. If I make a small mistake, I can just hit the back key. And then I'm going to go ahead and autofill these, copy them down. And I'm going to make sure I fill without formatting. So I gotta keep my nice, beautiful background there. So again, that was a nice application of how we can use those absolute cell references to make sure that formula copies correctly. So the next thing I want to do here is I want to work with the if-then logic. So what I would love to do here is I would like to kind of flag all the calls that are over 15 seconds. Now I have over 500 calls here, so I don't really want to go through manually and write in. And it's like, oh, okay, this is negative. That one's good. This one is positive. I don't know. I'm gonna flag this one. I don't want to do that manually and search all this data on my own. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to be very tedious and time consuming. So we're going to use conditional formatting, or a conditional function, I should say, which is an if-then function. And there's different if-then functions. So we're going to just kind of start with one and see how it goes. So basically, I would like to tell my cell that, if my time was over 15 seconds, then do this, right? Then flag that cell or then do this feature here. So I'm going to start up here. I'm going to go to my M5. Oops, my M5, there we go. And again, you can find your formulas different ways. So you can go up to formulas and you do have the ones that say logical and you want the one that has if. So, and it will kind of explain to you here what it does. So it checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true and another value if false. So you're going to tell Excel what you want the condition to be. And then you're also going to tell it what to input into the Excel if the answer was true or if the answer was false. So you have to tell Excel what to input into that Excel, right? What do you want it to say? What do you want it to do? So I'm going to go ahead and use this feature. All right, so I want to go ahead and give it a statement here, and you can use different symbols. So you can kind of refer to your book a little bit more, but you can use your equal symbol, your greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, or the not equal to symbol is actually the arrows pointing in both directions. So refer to your textbook for the different kinds of if-then cases that you can do here. What we would like to do is we would like to flag if the value is greater than 0 for the hold time goal, right? So I don't really care if the value is negative. That's great. We met the goal. We're fine. I really want to flag the ones that are bigger than 0 here, that are over 15 seconds. So I'm going to use my greater than symbol, and I'm going to go ahead and use the number 0 there. So again, that's what my focus is. I want to know, okay, what of these goals is going to be greater than 0? And then I do have to tell it what I want it to say. Now you can enter words, numbers, you can do whatever here. You can even enter like a formula, etc. So there's a lot you can do here. The way your book would like us to do it is that if the answer is true, we would like it to be a 1. And if the answer is false, we would like it to be a 0. So we're kind of using a binary idea here, where we're letting a 0 be false and a 1 be true. And we're just going to go ahead and hit OK. And you're going to see that you get a 1 here. For this first value. So let's go ahead and so I'm looking at my answer here, and you're probably seeing my puzzle face. I'm like, why is that showing as a 1? That's not what I wanted. So again, we all make mistakes, and pause and see if you can see where my mistake is. Because I paused and I said, where on earth did I make a mistake? I know how to do this. So pause the video, see if you can find my mistake. When you're ready, come on back. So my mistake is that when I entered my information, I wrote the wrong initial cell. I highlighted cell E5, which is not what I wanted, and I should have highlighted cell L5. So again, even for myself, we can do this every day, but you type fast, you don't pay attention, and then you can easily make mistakes there. So you want to be careful that you enter the information that you wanted and check that what you're getting is correct. So when I went in here, I said, this wasn't supposed to flag, it's negative, something's wrong. And sure enough, it was. I had clicked the wrong cell. So it just goes to show you, I thought about cutting it from the video, but I was like, no, I'm not going to cut it because we all make mistakes. And this is why I keep saying to you guys, check your stuff before you go too far, right? When you do a formula, does it make sense? And this was a great opportunity to say that, hey, that answer did not make sense. What did I do wrong? So what I wanted to do here is I wanted it to flag and mark a 1 for the positive values, right? And that's the opposite of what I got here. So I knew I did something wrong. So I went in, I checked it, and I fixed that initial cell reference where I had clicked E and not L when I was typing. So that is now corrected. And then we can go through and fix this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy my cell now. And again, I kind of usually like to just copy a couple. Again, I'm going to fill without formatting. And again, make sure it's making sense. So select your cell. Okay, now it's going to L6. This one's going to L7. That's correct. Now here I finally get a flag, right? Because this value is positive. I want to flag anything that has not met that goal. So anything that's positive here, I need to flag, and that's happening. So I'm going to keep copying this all the way down. And I'm not going to change my formatting there. And again, just check it. Does this make sense? Should these all be flagged? Yes, they should, right? Because they're all positive here. So we did not meet our goal. We're over that 15-second window. So those are flagged. So again, just give a check. We all make mistakes. I do too. And you want to make sure that's correct. So just to kind of go in one more time, as you're going in here, this was a logical function. This was an if function. And what I did in the first piece is I wrote what I wanted to look at. So in this case, I wanted to see where my L values were bigger than 0. That's what I wanted to flag. So I selected my L5 there. This time I clicked the right one. I wanted to flag where is this greater than 0. And then I told it what to do. If it was true, I want to use a 1. And if it was false, I want to use a 0. So that is how I went in and did that. Now, in this case, I'm going to use zeros and ones for a very specific reason, and I'll show you that in a second. But maybe you don't want to use zeros and ones, right? Maybe you're like, no, this is the end of my report. I want to publish this. I'd like to just label it instead. And you can do that with the if-then piece as well. So if I go back in here and I see that I have, my if L5 is greater than 0, do this and do this. The first option is always what you do when it's true. Always, always, always. And the second option is always when it is false. And again, you can see that if you go back up to the formulas, it does actually give you that information here, in more detail. It will say, if true, if false. So you have that there as well if you find that helpful. But let's say I would like it to say a word. I'm going to use the word flag just to throw it out there. So maybe I would like it to say flag instead of having the number 1. I can do that. So what I would do is I would put the word in quotes. So maybe I write it like this. I can write it uppercase, lowercase, whatever I want. It doesn't matter. But I would put that word in quotes. Maybe I want this one to just be the word okay. Again, I'm just kind of making silly references here, but I can do that too. And then what happens is that it will actually give me the let's go one more here. The word answer instead. So you can tell Excel to label however you want to. We're going to use zeros and ones because I want to do some math with it. But if you're not doing that, then you could use words instead and flag that way. All right, let me backtrack for a second here. Go back to where we were. All right, so maybe I'm using zeros and ones because I would like to know how many times we failed. So zeros and ones are kind of nice because the 0 will not get added in, right? It doesn't add anything to it. But if I sum that column, all the values that are 1 will get added in. So I'm kind of sort of counting up the number of ones I have. I'm technically adding in the zeros too, but adding with 0 doesn't change anything. So using zeros and ones is kind of a nice way to quickly count up how many maybe errors or potential issues that you have here. And this KPI is labeled as our key performance indicator. So it's something that we're looking at as an achievement goal here. So what I can go ahead and do is I'm going to go to B29 here, and it asks me for the whole times above the goal. So what I can do there is I actually can use the sum feature and go ahead and sum that column. And again, it works nicely because the zeros don't get summed, only the ones do. So I'm only counting up the places where I have values that are failing that metric, right? Their hold times are longer than 15 seconds. There we go. And I see that it happened here 441 times, which is a lot because remember, I only have about 515 calls. So that's quite a lot of calls here. And I can go ahead and actually find the rate. So rate is another word that we use for percentage. So if you see the word rate, and this happens a lot in with finances as well, right? When you're getting a loan or a credit card, we use the word rate a lot. It just means the percent. So if I want to know the failure percent, what I'm going to do there is I'm going to take my total failures, that 441, and I'm going to divide that by the number of calls I had. And I do have that information somewhere up here. So there I had 511 calls. I can go ahead and hit enter there. Now they're going to give me the answer in decimal form. So what I could do is I could select that cell and I can go ahead and change this to the percentage form and then have that as a percent. So we're seeing here that we're failing 86.3% of the time. If I don't want that decimal, I can always change the number of decimal places I use. So maybe I only want one decimal point, or maybe I want none. So we are failing 86% of the time. So there's actually quite a lot of information here, right, in this chart. I know I didn't fill in all of it, but you have information about your average hold times, your most common hold time, your shortest and your longest hold time. You can also find about the lengths of your calls. And then we also know that we're really failing on the hold times, right? People are waiting longer than we want. So now we can go ahead and hopefully make a plan to fix that. So now that we have the data, we can really show that, hey, we're not meeting this metric. Now let's talk on how do we fix that. And then we can measure that data later on, maybe like a month later, and see if we've improved.